Everyone, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Welcome to this edition of Betting for the Cycle, where we're giving you 4 picks for upcoming baseball games, matchups, or prop bets, and trying to go 4 for 4 to bet for the cycle. Now, if you know how all of this works and don't need a refresher on the rules, feel free to jump ahead to the 50-second mark of this video. For everyone else, here's how this works. I'm going to pose 4 potential wagers or daily fantasy comparisons. Our experts and I will each give you our picks and rank them based on how confident we are in the outcome, from a single to a double, triple, and the most confident pick, of course, being the home run. That gives us a chance at betting for the cycle. Our individual stats have been tracked all season long. You're going to see those pop up on the screen as we begin making our picks for this week. As always, I'm joined by Taylor Smith and Jim Baviglia. Guys, only a few days left in the MLB regular season. Let's start by looking at those teams that are still trying to lock up playoff spots. As of this recording, there are 4 American League teams battling for 3 playoff spots. Minnesota Twins basically a day or two away from clinching the AL Central crown. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland Athletics, and Cleveland Indians all battling it out for the 2 wildcard spots. Taylor, which of these teams will not make the playoffs this year?
So as of this recording, the A's have a half-game lead on the Rays, who have a half-game lead on the Indians. I'm taking the Indians to miss out, but it's only my double, just because they are out of it right now. The A's and Indians do both play one more game than the Rays do, which kind of makes it interesting. But Cleveland plays Washington on the road this weekend. That's the toughest matchup of any of these 3 teams left, if you don't count the Twins, which I'm not. The A's play Seattle this weekend after another game in Anaheim, while the Rays face Toronto on the road, I believe, after tonight's game against the Yankees. So long story short, I'm taking Cleveland, pretty much just because they're out of it right now.
Jim?
Yeah, this is really tough. I tried to analyze pitching matchups. The one thing, Taylor's right, Cleveland has the toughest matchup with Washington, but I think they're going to escape everybody but Corbin. As far as the Nats' top pitchers, I think they're looking at Voth probably on Friday. And then originally Max Scherzer was scheduled, but Dave Martinez has already said that Scherzer's going to be his wild card starter. So I don't think that's going to happen. So you're probably looking at Joey Ross. So I think that helps Cleveland. Cleveland's hot. They get Jose Ramirez back. The team that worries me is the Rays. They have the one game against the Yankees, which is tough today. The Yankees still playing for home field. And also they play at Toronto, which is the kind of team with their bats could give the Rays problems. The Rays are kind of piecing together now, which Major League Baseball allows them to do with this goofy rule where you get to upgrade the rosters, but that's a whole nother story. I have a feeling the Rays might have the biggest issue here. Not confident about it. I'm going to go with the Rays being out as my double.
So just going to start by saying Minnesota's got the AL Central Division, so it's down to Cleveland, Oakland, and Tampa for the wild card as far as I'm concerned, as far as you guys are concerned too. The A's start with a bit of a lead on Cleveland and Tampa. 4 of their 5 remaining games come against Seattle, with the other against the Angels the night of this recording. Considering they've been on fire the last 2 weeks, I'm going to say they've got one of the wild card spots locked in. Cleveland takes on the White Sox for 2 more games, the Washington Nationals for 3. They may only win maybe 3 more games this season. The pitching matchups will be interesting, but they might beat the White Sox both times. They might win 1 or 2 against Washington. Tampa, meanwhile, has another game against the Yankees this afternoon, 3 left against Toronto. I could see the Rays picking up 3 more wins over the course of those games. So that would mean that I'm going to take the Rays to win the wild card spot. But because of the lack of any cushion whatsoever, I think it's a half game right now, I'm making it only my single. So all of us going very low confidence with this pick. For question 2, let's take a look at the very top of the American League standings. As we sit here, the Houston Astros and New York Yankees are nearly tied for the top spot in the American League. Houston has a 1.5 game lead after yesterday. One team will earn home field advantage throughout the American League playoffs and face the AL wildcard game winner in the divisional series, while the other will host the AL Central champion to begin their postseason. Not really sure which of those two is a better option, but who knows? Houston won their regular season series between the 2 teams 4-3, so they would earn home field advantage in the event that the Yanks and the Stros end up with the same record at season's end. So Jim, which team will earn home field advantage between the Yankees and the Astros?
Well, the Yankees losing that game in extra innings was big last night. I think if that goes the other way, then you can make a case for the Yankees maybe coming from behind. But even with that, the games the Astros have left, the pitching matchups, there's nobody really scary in there. They have their full lineup back. They're going to want home field advantage, so they're playing for that. The Yankees, meanwhile, they have the Rays today who need a win, and they also go to the Rangers, and one of those games will be against Lance Lynn, who is better than any of the starters that the Angels will throw up against the Astros in these coming games. So I think it really is pointing towards the Astros plus the lead, plus you mentioned them getting the tiebreaker. I'm going to go with Houston, and I'm going to make it my home run.
I'm doing the same here. The Yankees visit Tampa tonight. Then they visit Texas for 3 games this weekend. Houston, as we said, playing at Seattle tonight and at the Angels for 4 games this weekend. Aside from tonight's game, I don't know if there's much of a difference in difficulty level for either of these teams, though the Astros have 1 more game still to be played than the New York does, and they've got the lead in the standings, and they own the tiebreaker. I think the Astros have the advantage here. I'm going to make it my home run pick too. This seems like, of the 4 we're going to be going over this week, this seems like it's the most clear cut to me. Taylor, are you making this one unanimous?
I am. This seemed like a better idea yesterday before the Yankees lost that game and lost a game in the standings. So it's pretty clear cut. The Astros do have Verlander and Cole scheduled for Saturday and Sunday, so they only need to go 3-2 the rest of the way to lock this thing up. I think they will easily do that, probably exceed that. So, yeah, making it my home run, making it unanimous.
Number 3, we're going to do a series pick. St. Louis Cardinals essentially knocked the Chicago Cubs out of playoff contention last weekend at Wrigley Field. Cubs still 1 is their magic number to be eliminated as of this recording. This weekend, they'll close out the regular season against one another at Busch Stadium. Which team will pick up a series win here? I'm up first, and it's really a shame what's happened to the Cubbies of late, unless you're a Cardinals, Brewers, or White Sox fan, of course. They've lost 7 straight games as of Wednesday morning, including being swept in 4 by the Cards. This weekend series likely to serve as a bit of a rest and tune-up for St. Louis, who can't better their position in the ranking of NL division leaders and shouldn't need to do too much to lock down the division title before the weekend starts. The Cubs, now without Chris Bryant, who was injured recently, they'll very likely be mathematically eliminated from playoff contention by the time Friday rolls around, if not by the end of today. So the pitching matchups may be close when you look at it, but I think these are just 2 teams trending in different directions. I'm taking St. Louis to win the series. I'm going to make this one my triple. Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, for all the same reasons you did. The Cubs are pretty much dead in the water. By the time the series starts, they should be officially dead in the water. So I'm not super confident since the Cardinals, like you said, don't really have a ton to play for, but they are at home. They do have Hudson, Michaelis, and Wainwright scheduled as of now. The Cubs have Darvish, Hendricks, and a 3rd starter undecided. The Cardinals may still have to fight off the Brewers in the division. There's a chance of that. It's not a strong chance, but it's possible. I'm taking the Cardinals. I'm also making it my triple.
Jim, what do you say?
Yeah, this is going to be unanimous here. The one concern for me maybe is Darvish starting for the Cubs. Maybe he gives them an edge in that game just because he's been so good lately. But even his last game, I mean, he pitched brilliantly, and the Cubs still found a way to lose that game. You mentioned no Chris Bryant, no Javi Baez now. I mean, the Cubs are really depleted. Plus, probably going to be bummed when they go into this series by the fact that they're not going to be in the playoff hunt this year, which is a huge disappointment. St. Louis, not too much to play for, most likely, but I think they're going to want to tune up real nice for the playoffs, not going on the down note. So I'm going to go with St. Louis, and I'm also going to make it my triple.
Last one to complete the cycle. According to Major League Baseball's tiebreaker rules, if 2 teams tie for the second wildcard spot, or if 3 teams tie for both wildcard spots, we get into tiebreaker game territory. If 2 teams tie for the 2 wildcard spots, there would be no tiebreaker game played. Seeding would simply be determined by head-to-head records. Taylor, it's a yes or no question. Will Major League Baseball need a tiebreaker game this season?
We won't in the NL. The AL, though, with those 3 teams tightly packed, it's possible. Oakland and Cleveland have 1 extra game than Tampa Bay, which could throw things into chaos. It's so close right now that I want to see the chaos. I want the extra game on that Monday just because, why not? So all I have is my single left. It's a flyer pick. I will say yes to a tiebreaker game.
Jim?
Yeah, I almost went with Taylor for the same reason that I kind of want to see this happen. But, the math is against it. What I could see happening, I picked the Rays to be out. I could see Cleveland and Oakland tying and the Rays being a game back, in which case there would not be a tiebreaker. So I just think it's mathematically, it probably takes more for there to be a tiebreaker than for there not to be a tiebreaker. So even though I kind of wouldn't see it, I'm going to play the odds here and say no tiebreaker, and I'm going to make it my single.
This one's going to be my double pick, and I'm going to say that yes. This goes back to my logic for the first pick of the week. Oakland, I think, will end up winning the top wildcard spot. And in order for Cleveland to force a tiebreaker game with Tampa for the second spot, they're going to either have to win their series with Washington, maybe sweep the Nationals, but at least win two, and get a little bit of help from either the Yankees or the Blue Jays. While the National League isn't likely to need one in their wildcard or divisional races because the Cubs and Mets are likely to be eliminated by Thursday at the latest, Thursday night, this is going to be a situation where the American League seems like it is primed for a tiebreaker game. I'm going to say there will be a tiebreaker game this year. Going to make it my double. There would not be a tiebreaker game to determine home field advantage throughout the playoffs or throughout the division or the leagues for the Yankees and Astros or between the two wildcard teams if there's a two-way tie at the top wildcard spot. But I think we've got a possibility where it's going to be Cleveland and Tampa ending up tied for that second wildcard spot. I think there will be a bigger sense of urgency surrounding Cleveland than Washington this weekend since the Nats have already locked up their playoff spot, even though I'm sure they'd rather host Milwaukee in the wildcard game than visit Miller Park. The Rays, we've gone over what their schedule is. I think we're in a position where this very well could be headed to a tiebreaker game because I think Oakland's going to lock up that top spot. And that is really what's going to be the determining factor here because I don't think that there's going to be any contention for that spot. I think it's Tampa and Cleveland, and they may end up tied. Plus, just like Taylor said, I really want to see this happen. Tiebreaker games are just fun. That's why they created the wild card game just to begin with. So let's see another one. Let's see a game 163. Before we wrap up, we're going to check back in on our World Series picks one more time. I've got Atlanta plus 420 to win the National League. Houston plus 170 to win the American League. At the moment, the Braves are plus 200. Astros minus 130. I'm sticking with Houston and Atlanta for my World Series matchup pick. Dodgers might be the favorites, but I like the value that the Braves have, especially at the number that I got them at. The New York Yankees at plus 180, the only other team I think worth considering in the American League, especially if the Astros end up with home field, because I think that the Yankees, Twins, and then getting the winner might be the more favorable matchup, even if they'd have to play Game 7 on the road in the ALCS. But they were much more intriguing a week or two ago when they had a much bigger payout attached to them. Taylor, you have the Astros locked in at plus 180, the Dodgers at plus 170. Like I said, Houston minus 130. LA's been sitting at minus 140 for a while now to win the NL. That's how you started the season with those two teams. Is that how you're going to end it?
Yep. I haven't changed anything all year. I don't see any reason to now. The Dodgers locked up home field in the NL last night. The Astros, like we said, are probably going to do it this weekend at the latest. So we saw a couple of years ago that home field means a lot. The Astros and Yankees each won every single home game of their ALCS against each other in a 7-game series. So I think that will ultimately help Houston, of course, so I'll stick with Houston and LA.
Jim, you also locked in the Astros and the Dodgers. You've got plus 170 on LA, plus 150 on Houston. Last chance for changes. Any that you want to make?
No, it's funny. I always thought that the one I was concerned about was the Astros with the Yankees. I think what I'm more concerned about now are the Dodgers with the Braves. The Braves, they kind of got their playoff experience out of the way last year. We're just happy to be here. I think they're going to be a lot better this year. But I do think they might have issues with St. Louis. The Jack Flaherty factor is going to be big. It could be 2 wins for St. Louis right there. So that's not an easy series. Bottom line is I think I'm going to stick with it. But I do think these are going to be really competitive playoffs, and they should be a lot of fun.
That'll do it for this week's edition of Betting for the Cycle. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel. Let us know your picks in the comments below, and check back once the regular season wraps up, where we'll break down the entire 2019 MLB postseason and recap our 2019 season of picks. For Jim Bavili and Taylor Smith, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.